Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another exciting and insightful episode of 60 Minutes with Femi and Remi. I am Adeoye Davis.
And I am Femi Davis.
Yes, and today, as usual, we have another guest, very important guest in the building. Someone with vast experience in the entrepreneurial field and with a very thriving business. Our guest today is Tunde Adeoye, and is the CEO, the chairman and co-founder of Ripples Catering Events. I'm very sure if you're a social person, if you're prominent with the events industry, or you find yourself attending quite a number of events, social gatherings, I'm sure you must have been at an event where Ripples have catered, and you must have experienced their very exquisite services at one of these functions. So today we have the chairman and co-founder, Mr. Tunde Adeoye. I've been trying to get him for quite a while, but he's a very extremely busy man, and we are so excited to have him with us here in the studio. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us. So I'll just read a bit of your profile because it's quite long. It's an extensive one. But for the sake of time, we'll just do a bit of it. So Tunde Adeoye is the chairman and co-founder of Ripples Catering and Events, responsible for overall business model development, identifying and forging strategic alliances with vendors and day-to-day operations. With a certification in life coaching, he is also the director of studies of the Ripples Academy. With almost 20 years of experience in the banking industry, he rose from executive trainee to the position of commercial and agric banking regional manager. He has a national diploma in accountancy from the Polytechnic of Ibadan, a Bachelor of Arts in Business Management from the University of Sutherland, UK, an MBA in Finance option from Ladoke, Finance option from Ladoke Akitola University of Technology, and MSc in Sustainable Development Practice from the University of Ibadan. Yes, he runs the Entrepreneur Business Class program of the Ripples Catering Academy and is currently pursuing his PhD at the Bowen University. Thank you once again for joining us, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so aside all this resume, can we meet you in person? Just something quite personal now.
Okay, my name is Tunde Adeoye, and like it's been read, I had some years in the banking industry.
Okay, sir.
And having had that background, I ventured into entrepreneurship, and it's been so much of great testimonies and feats. During the course of my program in UI, I had a grant to undergo the research in Ghana for about 5 months thereabout.
Wow.
And it's about the access of micro and small medium enterprise, the access to finance, and had to cover about 2 provinces in Ghana. And I think the experience actually, made me to have a rethink, and then decided to pursue my PhD in rural financing because of the problem that entrepreneurs are going through in the hands of the financial institutions. There's no they're having much of, in fact, the same problem we're having in Nigeria. I thought Ghana would be a different thing, but I discovered that it was even kind of worse off.
Wow.
Because of the way the financial institutions were dealing with the entrepreneurs. It's only when you're doing well that they have good relationship with. Once you're not doing well, they don't even want to know what you're doing. They will come and start threatening. And I was able to assist them then, to be able to get over the issues they were having with the financial institutions, because if they can't help them, some are relatively doing well before they said they should come and take money, and after they took the money, they started having issues, and they were saying, look, is either you paid the money or, and I had to tell them that, look, if they can't go through the process, how would you give a loan to someone who is selling, is buying and selling, and somebody who is into poultry farming, and you are giving them the same terms and conditions? So already the person that is running poultry farming is already, the loan is dead on arrival, because he needs to have a gestation period before he can start thinking of repaying loan. Now, somebody who is buying and selling, once he buys today, can start selling right there and then. So he doesn't need any gestation period, but you're making it look as if every one of them, they are begging you guys to get money, and then they have to just pay back. So it wasn't much of an assistance. And then when the people that were granting them these funds come around, they take them to those that are relatively doing well. And and it's like trying to show off, like these ones are doing it. Those ones that are struggling, they won't take them there. So eventually, the purpose of that grant or loan for these entrepreneurs are not really effective. They are not making it's not making life better. You see that the poverty rate is still, there's no poverty reduction and all that. So it's really crazy.
Wow, that's quite an experience. And just as you mentioned that, that means it's not only here in Nigeria, and it's happening in somewhere like Ghana, where some of us still think probably they have it more rosy, figured out. So would you say, now back to your business, has there been any financial intervention towards growing Ripples over the years?
All right. It's always a problem that I always tell people that, look, people see capital. But the time I was doing this research, I discovered that majority, the percentage of access to finance is about 70% of the remaining, options that are hindering or affecting the entrepreneurs. And with my experience, I don't think it has to do with the capital. Because when we were going to start in 2009, I was a banker. My wife, had some skills, and then we were doing some stuff. So I had enough money to start, And I remember our first shop, I paid about 1.5 million in 2009.
Wow.
And thinking that, with this grant, I traveled, got some things, and, I was thinking that, look, everything would work out fine. We would just hit the ground running.
Wow.
And you won't believe that for a whole year we didn't have anybody knocking on our door for business. In fact, it was our neighbor who happens to be a seamstress. So she was going to get a caterer for our mother's burial. And he was like, look, come, we have a neighbor who is a caterer. Why am I looking for caterer? That was how the woman actually gave us the business. And that was the only business we got for a whole year.
Wow.
And by the time the rent expired, we had to tell ourselves that, look, we need to move to a marketplace, which we did, and then things started picking up. So for me, it's even with the money that we had in place to start the business, was not enough to take us through. We were actually, there was no returns for a whole year, and it wasn't really worth. So I always tell people that, look, whatever it is, money is one thing and idea is another thing. When you get your ideas started, things will start to come in place and all that. You need to look at the feasibility studies of where are you. We got a place in Jericho there along Magazine Road. That was where we got our first office, and it was a nice place, shopping, the office complex, fine, everything, the ambience. But we were not visible to the who comes to that area to start looking for. So it was the wrong start for us.
Wow.
But eventually, after a year, we learned along the line and realized that, look, it wasn't just about having enough capital to start the business, but being able to be visible and all that, being the face of your client also matters.
Wow. Now, you have had years of experience. You've been in the banking sector. You understand a lot about business dynamics. Do you think there is a blueprint to running business? Any type of business? Do you think that, okay, if I follow, say for example, I want to start what you're doing, do you think that if I follow your business model, I will have your success?
Like I said, we started and we got it wrong from the start. So for me, it's better to find your path. You can't run with another person's idea. Okay, you need to look at, because I had some financial, I had some savings. So it was a lot. If it were to be somebody, a starter, who doesn't have that kind of backup, I can tell you that business is grounded already. But because I had some savings, so while we were running, doing some bits of stuff, we were able to like, okay, pick ourselves and not. Initially, we were not even thinking of catering service. We were looking at event management as, as a main focus. But I discovered that thank God now, you have people asking you, come and manage my event, come and plan my event. In those days, people will ask you, I said, how much is your fee? And maybe the total package is about 10 million. You're saying my fee is 1 million. Then they will ask you, big so just for speaking English and then arranging people, so they will tell you that no, don't bother. So it was still part of what we had to learn in the first year. We weren't getting that business and people. So and she was already doing some little things around small shops, around cocktails and all that. So eventually, we're thinking that look, for us not to go to the market with one way something, that let's see if we can, like this insurance kind of approach. When they are marketing you, they will market all their product. You say you can't do 1 million, they will say 500,000. So we had to go back to our drawing board to say, okay, if we don't get the events to manage or plan, can we do some other things? So that's how we started taking advantage of. So I was managing the event management aspect, and she was handling the food aspect. So whichever way, we know that if we don't get the event, we'll get the food. So that's how we were able to. So I would advise that you look inward, look at your strengths, this SWOT analysis and all that. Be able to look at what your strength is, the opportunities that are available within your space, the threats you're likely to get, your weakness as a person. So when you're able to look at all these things, and then you can be able to now channel your path. Not that, okay, because we've had it like that, and you follow our blueprint. For me, I don't think there's any blueprint anywhere. They can just write it's academical, and just put it down another. But the reality of what you're facing will definitely, that's why we have a strategical aspect and the tactical aspect. Now, the strategy is, before you get to the battlefield, you have to like, okay, this is what I want to do. When you get to the battlefield and discover that you can't, this one can't work, then you become so tactical to look at this. So I would advise that look at your strategy, but when you get to the battlefield and you discover that things are not according to the blueprint, then you let your tactics, let it come to play.
That's a beautiful one. Now, considering the fact that it is experiential and the experiences will be different for individuals. Do you think, and also considering the Nigerian business climate, do you think it is safe for an entrepreneur to get a loan for business?
It depends. And I'm going to be sincere with you. I've had experiences in the banking sector, and I know that there's a lot of deception when it comes to loan. In fact, some bankers will even help you to package your loan so that they can meet their loan target and say, okay, they will even help you do cash flow. For that's what they were doing in Ghana. A business that that cannot generate this kind of cash flow, you drew a cash flow that person can never meet up. Eventually, they gave the loan based on the cash flow that this person can be able to has enough financial muscle to pay this on monthly basis. By the time the person started business, he could not pay half of that amount. Then it became an issue. So I always tell people, like, I've been able to enjoy some kind of loan. But what I normally do is, if it's a short term, as in to augment your working capital, you look at what you're generating so that you will know. Now, if you're running a business like automobile, for example, I won't advise you to take a loan to augment your working capital, because you don't know when any buyer will come. So if you take a loan and say, okay, give me 1 million, and because of the conditions of the loan, you're expected to pay back on monthly basis. So most of the time, what they do is they deceive themselves. They will gather money and pay back with the hope that they will collect it back the following month. The day the bank refuses to give them that loan, renew it, it becomes a problem. So, but if it's somebody who is generating so much cash flow, like food business, for example, you know that no matter what, your daily sales is about 2 million naira on daily basis in terms of sales. And you're looking at, for you to buy, now a bag of rice is about 80,000 naira. Now look at what you're going to need to stock up you will need like about 10 bags of rice. That's already about 800,000. So by the time you have not talked of pepper and some other, by the time you look at all these things, you need like about 3 to 4 million naira for you to be able to stock up on daily basis. So if you have the need to borrow for that kind of business, there is nothing wrong with it. But you need to look at what you're doing. What kind of cash flow is it generating? So if it's a business of once in a while, luxurious items, I won't advise you. Then there are other aspects of, if you're thinking of, okay, for example, now I'm paying about, where we have a restaurant outside Ibadan, we're paying about 150,000 on NEPA bills every week. Now, I looked at that, it comes to about 600,000 in a month, 7.2 million in a year. Now, if I decide to go for an inverter or a solar system and all that to reduce my cost in terms of power generation. Now, if I take a loan of 5 million, okay, I've done the analysis. I noticed that if I'm able to get the solar, it will reduce my cost about 50%. So if I'm able to have about 3-point-something million saved, that will take care of whatever loan I'm taking, then it's okay. But it's going to be on a long term, not something that I will expect to pay in 6 months. Usually, the entrepreneurs are always eager to get loan. And the reason, for example, a farmer who wants to go into maize and cropping. Yes. He knows that when rain is about to start, he needs to gather up his thing. Now, he will go to the bank and say, I need this money against this thing. But by the time the bank is delaying and doing whatever they have to do, I noticed that the time I did my research, it takes an average of about 6 weeks for banks to come and give loan from the day of application. Wow. So if you have spent 1.5 months, you're already gone before you even start. So that means that there's no way you will now start planting when you're already in the middle of rainy season and expect that something will come up early to pay back the loan. So those are the things that like we said earlier, that each person, there is no blueprint. You need to look inward and look at your strength and say, look, this thing, and be sincere with yourself, because we deceive ourselves a lot, and because the banker who is helping you to package the loan also want to meet his target. So they won't come out straight to you and say, look, this thing, it has its implication. No. Now, by the time the loan is not given, the man has signed offer letter. In fact, majority don't even read the offer letter. By the time they've given the offer letter and everything, and then repayment comes, it becomes an issue. And then the man will start hearing, they didn't tell me it's going to be like this. In fact, I had to do some recording, because when I was doing this research in Ghana, they told me that they might not want to accept my final report because of the fact that this thing is not really helping these people. So I had to do a normal interview, recorded voiced message, so that at least people will know that, look, what these guys are going through. One almost had a stroke because he was doing well. They said, come and take loan, come and dig borehole, get a land, expand your business. The man was using a room in his house and he was doing well. The day he took the loan, that was he used the loan, the principal, to pay the first 3 installments. By the time the loan was due for repayment, he was using the principal. So after 3 months, he couldn't even feed the board. So the day I went there, I said the bankers came, they were telling him to pay, or they will seize. Let them seize what is already grounded. If I say every time they come, just say that it's your money that is going down the drain, so that they will come to the edge and be able to assist. Because at that point, they need to save him and save whatever he is into, and not so particular about the money we've given you, have to repay it back. So one needs to really look at its strength and is the business, and be able to say, look, what you're doing for like 1 or 2, 3 years, you should be able to understand how it works. So you can't let a third party come and be giving you an idea and say, because you want money at all costs. If it's not what it's better, let it be. It's better to have peace of mind. And then the little you can make than you put yourself in that, you won't be able to sleep.
Grow organically, over the time at your own pace. That's quite insightful. Thank you. Now, back to your own niche, the food industry. Let's bring it back home now to Oyo State generally. Okay. We can see that there's a lot springing up, and I feel it's also good. I mean, it's a sign of growth. There's a lot of food businesses, both on a large scale, those that are organic meals, simple, and it's just a lot everywhere. Now, how do you perceive that competition or that expansion, that growth that we are that is current? Because it's like everywhere is saturated now.
In Nigeria, everything is competitive,
Yeah.
going through something, we're saying, look, even borehole, you know, we were not supposed to be building each house of people to have a borehole. But you see that virtually like 10 houses will have 10 boreholes. So Nigeria that's our DNA. Everything is about, the whole thing is competitive. Even if you're doing something and somebody says this thing is lucrative, before you know it, somebody has built a shop close to you doing the same thing, even though it doesn't have the experience. But once he has the money, say, look, once this person make it. Now it depends on your strategy. Like I said earlier on, when we're going to start, the name we gave ourselves had meaning. It wasn't just a name we stumbled upon. We had to think about what we want to make of the business. So when we came about the name Ripples, it's to affect everything that had to do with what we're doing. So it kind of creating a ripple effect. Like, okay, once you come in contact with us, we used to use, we have this slogan that a contact multiple impact. So that whatever it is that we have done for you, it will reflect and affect everything around you. So it's not just a business once and for all, you know, it's a going concern for us. So once we meet with you, we do something from engagement to your wedding, your naming ceremony, this, that, and your office party. So we have everything, covering everything that has to do with your event.
Wow.
So we expect that from the moment we have an encounter with you, you wouldn't let us go. Everything will have to be in your face at every point in time that you have an event. And we have we have a value proposition that we normally tell ourselves. We call it APT. Apt is it has to do with appearance, performance, and taste. Now, this accepts our business to grow and be able to compete in the face of all challenges. And talking about the appearance, we noticed that back then in 2009, people are bothered much about the taste of food. So they don't care about the appearance of the food. So the first thing that came to us was like, look, what can we do about the food that we're presenting? In fact, we have something we normally say, look, a food prepared by the best, the greatest chef in the world, served by a madman, nobody will stay to eat it. So that is where the appearance actually became so phenomenal for us, that look, we need to be able to take it, you know, be intentional about the appearance of our food. So from the plates of the food to all the spoons, everything, we were so intentional about it. Then the second aspect is, the second point is the professionalism and the performance of our servers. We would iron and starch their waiters' uniform. Not, in fact, at some point, at that time they used to call us FEC because our guys will be so neat and all that people will wonder who. In fact, at some point you will get to an event, there's people started dressing like us. I remember because one corner, he was at an event and said, look, are you guys there? And we said, look, it's like these people are, you know, looking like your guys. So that actually, because then you will see people dressed, their clothes, you know, dirty and all that. So, you know, people are not really particular about it, but the taste of the food, we know that taste is a common factor for every caterer. But that aspect of the ambience, the presentation, was what actually distinguished us in the marketplace. And once you're able to do that, you know, you are differentiated. That's why I always tell people that, look, once you are not, you are able to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, nobody will negotiate you or negotiate your price. Because when they know that the value you're bringing in it can be compared, they won't look at the price. It's like what you are presenting, that differentiation is making up for the extra cost they are paying to get you on board. So in the face of competition, and it accept our business. Where we run a restaurant in an institution, a private university, and for 3 consecutive years we have won the best cafeteria back to back. And the reason is just because anywhere we find ourselves, we don't just say, oh, it's just about the food. In terms of even the relationship with the student, with the client and all that, we take it so serious, and that accepts us even in the face of all the competition.
Wow.
You talked about distinguishing yourself, and that's wonderful. But I have noticed that Nigeria, and which is also something you pointed out now, Nigeria has a copy and paste mentality. Now, say I start business X with 5 million naira, and I'm doing well, but I've not even recouped. I've not broken even. Then someone comes with 50 million naira, copies my business model, and starts the same business on the same street. You pointed out now that someone went to an event and saw someone copying. How is there a solution to that, or do I have to constantly think of something new every day?
Seriously, you need to be on top of your game. It's a good thing for people to copy your model, but you can't afford to, because by the time people look at your model, they're able to look at the shortcomings, and they're able to build. Even it doesn't have to be money. If the person is able to look at the business and be able to look at the shortcoming and take advantage, look at what Item 7 is doing. Every time I pass there, I look like, what gave this person this kind of idea? Apart from the fact that I know that he has some, but that business model, in fact, it would have enough. There won't be with that model, there won't be issue of people even stealing or doing some fraud around serving of food, because you have to get your ticket from somewhere, go pick the food. In fact, they don't interface with the clients. Just pay, and then they just get their food pay, and then they walk away. So it's somebody has to be on top of his game at every point in time. But the issue is just that it's now your problem. If you are as a first comer, you have an advantage. And that is why, as you're doing bit and bit of what you're doing, you need to start looking at your exit plan sometimes. Or you look at, okay, what are the sustaining strategy you can embark on? If this, at a point in time, you need to start looking at, before we were not doing anything more than outdoor. We were strictly doing outdoor. So at some point before the COVID happened, they just made offer for us to come and do, to manage it. We've been managing facility for hotels and all that. So, but at that point in time, for us to have like a restaurant, we were a bit jittery. That look, we are used to give me a contract, 10 million business. I do, I have right there and then I'll calculate my profits and know what I'm making. But running a food business like a restaurant, you can't be sure of profit you're making on a daily basis. So we're a bit, jittery and scared to even test the waters. But something pushed us. By the time that COVID came, though we started, but COVID actually brought that part out of us that look, guys, there will be a time there will be no events. So how do you survive? So we were able to start that business, the restaurant thing, and we start running it, all along, some learning on the business and all that. And it's been so far. We moved one of our turnovers, in particular, from about 60,000 to about over 1 million on daily basis. So it became like, this is another surviving strategy for us. We need not concentrate on the fact that and then the strength will not be there, age will not be there to start running on outdoor catering events and all that. So you need to look at then the aspect of the academy came in, that look, the residual knowledge we have on the business, the success factor that we have, it's an added advantage for us to be able to say, let's pass on the knowledge to the incoming generation and all that. So that academy too was one of our strategy to say, okay, in case when the food business, the strength is no longer there to run around and all that, you can sit down and begin to tutor the younger ones to say, look, as far as this business is concerned, the sky is the limit.
That's interesting. Thank you, sir. The academy, I know there was a time I was there. It's at Bodija. Okay, so how long have you been doing that, and what's now? I mean, that I feel like that makes you interact very well with local talents. How would you categorize your experience, or how would you describe your experience with talents from this part of the town, of the world? I mean, Ibadan, there's a lot of people say, do you think that the talents we produce have that standard to come? They have what it takes to compete, let's even say on the national level, where say, okay, any one of them finds themselves or herself in maybe somewhere like Lagos. Do you think we have talents that can compete?
Of course, like what I run the business master class for the academy, and most of the time that I have this interaction with the student, I don't teach them how to cook. I don't teach them the basic of but what I do is relate what they are doing, what they are learning with the real the outside world, how they can be able to cope, how they can take advantage, and some other things. What we have done as a business that has helped us, that has distinguished us, most of the time I get to tell them that everybody cooks. And when you look at the statistics, you look at the environment, you see that for somebody to have a shop selling food and people are going there, his food is good. Even though you may not like it, but it's relative. Some people are still patronized. So I tell people that, look, it's a business that for everybody that is doing this, but you need to take it beyond what it is. Like I used to have this introduction for them to say, fortunately somebody came and said this, our mother was a normal, this traditional caterer, Olopo. And I said the difference between the modern caterers and the traditional one is just the fact that they felt that they can't go beyond cooking of food. They see their job as just cooking of food and nothing more. And that's why they will cook food and put it in the cooler and go and drop it off at the venue or at the celebrant's place. And then that will just pay them a peanut. Like, okay, for all these things, and all that, we'll pay you 100,000. But if you're able to take it further, you're setting the tables, you're doing some other things, and you are charging, like, for what you have charged 500,000, somebody is charging 5 million. So you can see that at the end of the day, the end point for both people, it's going to be very significant. The person who is just doing the bit of what he can do and they are paying peanuts will definitely get that at the end of the day. But you're able to push it further. You're making the whole table look so. Sometimes you set table, and then people will not sit where they're supposed to. I said, look, that table shows that as if the table setting will determine the quality of food that they will bring to the place. So all these things helps a lot, and I've been able to, using that avenue and then with my experiences so far, to let them know that, look, whatever it is you're doing, you're not going to be teaching people. They want to see what you're making. It's the reality of it all. So if you're not serious with what you're doing, you will meet it at the end of the day, because it's not a child's play. For you to have paid this much and then you are taking it for granted. When they ask you come and do something and you are looking like that means if you can't do it, you have to get somebody else and pay for what you have learnt already. So it's the reality that we normally let them know that, look, whatever it is, you're not competing with anyone. But when you get to that market, what the client wants is what the client wants. So you can't begin to determine and say, look, because you don't know how to cook Chinese, now tell them and say, look, your jollof fried rice is better. By the time they will tell you that, okay, they will look for somebody that can do it better. So you cannot afford. In fact, we normally tell them that the journey that took us like about 5-6 years, you can achieve it in a month, in 2 months, depending on. And I was so glad we had a student. She was still an undergraduate, and by the time she learned some basic things, she didn't wait till when she finished. First, she just called one and said, look, she needed to do invoice for her department. They're going to have their annual dinner, and they gave her the small chops. So I was able to help her and all that. And before she graduated, in fact, she wasn't doing food again. She was focused on that small chop, and that was what she was doing. So I told them that, look, you don't have to wait till one big opportunity comes. We started, in fact, funny enough, my wife was doing, I got a freezer back then, and she was doing this Zobo, because she grew up in the north. And then people will be saying, this Zobo thing, can't you start selling? So we start selling. So you can imagine the business we have now started from Zobo. So, and that's why I always say that, look, the Bible says, despise not the day of small beginning. Honestly, if you are able to, and I learned that from the Igbo guys, when I was in the bank, they will be taking 500,000 overdraft monthly. And after 10 years, most of them, I know them in that Catering axis. What those guys have in assets, I'm telling you, it's mind-blowing. So consistency and that patience with resilience goes a long way to help every entrepreneur. If you don't just abandon it and say, look, this thing, you're able to rough the weather. It's a matter of time before you know it. Most of them have their building along that Catering that they bought for their shops. And these are the people that will be begging for 500,000 in 2000, 2001. Say, look, they needed it to add to their money to make it. But those guys are big guys now. So it's a lesson that, look, whatever it is you've started, and because of the situation of the country, I'm going to be sincere with you. I spent 20 years in the banking industry. All my years in the bank, I never bought a car with my money. It's either loan or something. Everything that you find yourself getting, you will see that element of loan there. And most of us will think it was now I can conveniently just say, look, for the time although when I left banking, it was a bit tough because I remember they normally pay salary on the 20th of every month. So for 2 months I was having this nightmare of 28 they've paid. See what I'm missing. But I never had savings too. Even despite the fact that they pay on the 20th, I never had savings. Seriously, if some of us will be sincere with ourselves, it was just a life of and that's why most of the time when somebody loses his or her job as a banker, it's difficult to come back if they don't have a backup plan, or God's mercy didn't prevail within the shortest time for them to be able to recover. And that's why most of the time they travel out. Once they're out of job, you see them on the jackpot because to start, and they say, where do I start from and all that. But with this business, I can conveniently say, look, at least you'll be able to do your things, whatever you buy, you know that, look, this thing is my money, not that I'm taking loan to buy it. So the journey can be very tough, but all along, you know that at the end of the day, it's going to pay off.
Wow.
I really appreciate this honesty. And you've touched on resilience, and I really wish and hope that we can teach the youths of today that there is no magic in business. All right. I was doing a job today, and one of the people that was supposed to show up didn't show up, young chap, and the guy was complaining that no, he's looking for fast money. That once the stress is too much like this, that's how he disappears. And I've had so many experiences like that, and I just wish that there could be, I don't know, maybe workshops, seminars, because right now our youths are being tutored by social media, and they're having the wrong role models. Right? I had to I told my daughter last week to change our wallpaper. I said, no, you can't make Charlie Poppy your wallpaper. There is no business model. There is nothing. I don't want you to become him. No offense, I mean, he's a wonderful guy, great artist, but I want something. You touched on going concern. I want you to think of building something that will probably outlive you. All right, not that you just be effervescent for 10 years and then nobody. Do you get? So I really wish that we can have symposia where we can teach people that there's no magic. You cannot despise humble beginners, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, we've known you, although I've known you from afar for years, and we can tell of the progress. Do you get? And it's so sad that the people that people are looking up to right now, they're just showing the millions and millions, and people think it's going to be that easy. No, it's not going to be that easy.
There was a program I attended, and I saw that poster somewhere. A guy who was in the cold environment, he had a ladder to climb to get out of that dungeon, but there was a fire. So this guy was just picking the
rungs of the ladder
to just the fire.
Yeah.
So it's talking about, look, you cannot afford to allow this short period to read the long-term thing. You have a whole ladder to get you out of this place, but instead you stay with the fire because of the warmth you can get at that moment, and you are plucking that thing to the steps to make the fire. By the time the steps are gone, the fire will go off. You can't get out of the dungeon and all that. So it's critical, and I think some non-governmental organizations are doing this to to help, and that's what I'm actually using the platform of Academy to do also. It's serious engagement when I'm having conversation with them. I let them know the mistakes we have made along the path, so that it's not as if if you're going to come and start, you are not competing with us anymore. We've gone and all that, we've made the name. So I let them, even from the picking of the names, I let them know, because I remember when we're going to start, my wife had BSc in computer, had nothing related to business. So we had to tell ourselves that we need to go to school and acquire some. So the training that we paid $1,000 in 2000 for this program, and the first thing the person, that was what gave me an insight about name. That look, you need to be intentional about the name you want to bear. At a point in time, people won't call you, they won't even know your name. Now, when people say Ripples, they don't even know our names. So it's just that name, Ripples. That look, you have to be intentional about the name you're going to pick, and that's why I had to do a lot of studies, and that will reflect your purpose, that will reflect what you want to achieve in the business, to even come about that name, Ripples. So by the time I mentioned the name to the person, he said we should give him like about 3 names. By the time she saw the Ripples, she picked that and said, look, this name, if there's nobody bearing this name in terms of business, just go with it. And that's has actually been it features in every aspect of our business, that every time we talk about it, that the name reflects what we want to achieve, not just about for now, but for years to come. And thank God for how far he has brought us, because that name now, people just mention Ripples, and they don't even know our names anymore. So I always make this. I say, look, don't go and be answering Mama Yusuf, Kinik, but don't bear a name that we outlived, like you said, a name that people would hear, like when you hear Nextly, you hear some of these things, Nestle, and then you hear some other brands and all that, Apple and all that. You want to, like, this name Otush. It's not just any kind of name they pick. So we're using all our experiences to bring. It's more of a mentoring thing, like trying to just let them come up and say, look, this is what the reality you're going to face, and all that. In fact, I always tell them that, look, don't say because you've had, in fact, we normally take them an aspect of event management too, not just food. Because normally when you're going to do any course in the institution, you still do some general studies and all that. You may likely take a course in sciences, or even as a commercial or art student. And I always tell them, because you will get to the field and business environment, and you can be, because people will feel like people will look down on you. And I remember there was a particular event we catered for. Another person was the event planner, and she put a table number. She numbered all the tables. It was for advertisement anyway, to advertise our brand. We normally use table tags for us to be able to coordinate our serving. So once I've numbered all the tables, I'll say, okay, like table 1 to 5, you guys, 3 of you handle it, 6 to. So when she did this, and then we put our own table tag. So she said we should remove it. I said, for what? Said, because we can only have 1 table. I said, we can have 10 table tags. The table belongs to me, not you. So if I'm not supposed to say, to be telling you to remove your table tag. I'm not even saying that. I said, put your table tag, advertise your product, but what will make my job easier, go seamlessly. I won't compromise that. So she went to meet the celebrant, and I came. I was like, what's that? I said, look, I don't know for her, but I'm not new in this business. If I have a table tag for a purpose, and you have to advertise your brand, so which one? And the man acts like, oh, so let it just be. Now, if I don't have knowledge, if I don't have experience and all that, somebody will come and rubbish you and not go to the corner of the place and start thinking that, can you imagine? So I always tell them, look, I have a bit of everything. So that when you get to that point, you need to talk and all that. Nobody would tell you that, what are you offering? We have done proposals to BAT to another. When they see proposals, they'll be asking, are you sure you are running a catering service? But some way, somehow, one can have this experience, work for somebody for 20 years, and then somebody will. It got to a point we have a strategy for, before we do proposal, we'll go and study the business. We'll go and study the business, and not just like now, okay, your color is blue and red. If I'm going to do proposal, my proposal template will have that. Will have all the, and I can tell you, and to God be the glory, all the proposal we have ever submitted, if we don't get to do the job, eventually we don't get to do it, but we will win it. because we will take our time to look at what they want and then put up something together. Even when they say come and do presentation, people will be wondering. I remember we do presentation for Jog or something. I said, look, me except that have busy, I don't have this kind of proposal. You understand? But you know, it's a way we taught ourselves that look, for this business, for us to thrive, there is no space for mediocrity. We need to be on top and be on top. So, and it has helped us.
That's really, 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 really interesting. Thank you, sir. Funny how time flies whenever we are on this program. She always surprised how 1 hour goes so fast. Now, before we go, what's the terrain like in operating, in Ibadan? Have you tested waters? I know, of course, you probably have catered in other states. Yes. And I think you have, as I said, you have a restaurant outside Ibadan. But then, operating from here, what's it like? Do you think that you have an advantage here compared to maybe other states or other environments? Or why have you decided to stay here in Ibadan and not?
Ibadan has been our base for quite a while. And whatever fame we have, we got it from Ibadan. There was this Blings Award that we won for 3 good times. We won 2020, 2021, and that's 2022 or so. So, catering is about experience. It's about your reach and about what people have as testimonies to give to others. So most of the time, you see people calling and say somebody said they were at your party and then, this, that, can you... Sometimes somebody will call from abroad and all that. So it's, and if you're going to be sincere with yourself, where you have found yourself, that kind of success, you've and it's difficult to just, okay. So from here we feel, okay, we'll move out and reach to other places, but we'll still keep our base as our base, so that at least, from whatever it is, and, time is not on our side, age factor is also, so there is no energy to say, okay, let me, because by the time you think of moving, somebody had given us a proposal to come to Ekiti, and when we looked at the distance and everything, the energy you have to, and then with the children entering the universities and all that, needing more attention, so we need to just whatever we can do within the space that we can do, let's just manage it, so that at least we won't start, reaching out. Like when Femi Adeoye sold his shares, and people were saying, why would that? And I said, look, the man is looking at his age, and then at the point in time, you need to start thinking of, let me just reduce the strength. I traveled to Abeokuta on Saturday to make a delivery. My driver was not resumed, and I had to do the driving. Driving to Abeokuta and coming back. You won't believe that I was grounded for a whole day.
Wow.
I was. My mom was just like, look, you think it's just like the strength you have 10 years ago. That, look, the body will tell and all that. So that's why we need to okay, let's see what we're doing. And it helps also where we have a restaurant. We have 2 of our children there studying in the university. I'm running my PhD program there, and I'm also attending, looking out for them too and all that. So it's about 3-in-1 kind of a thing. Yeah. So doing business, fatherhood, and then I'm pursuing my career too. So those are the things that comes to play when it comes to our decision to move out of Ibadan. For now, we've been doing in Lagos. We've gone as far as Abuja, Ekiti, and some Ondo and all that. But we know that the name we've gotten, even so, those people that are giving us job outside Ibadan, actually we met them in Ibadan. Not that because some of them would just come and say, okay, I was at a party you did, and I'm from Ekiti. I'm having a burial ceremony in Ekiti, and then that's how we find. So it's from Ibadan. Ibadan has been like a channel for us to reach out to every other area. So for the competition in Ibadan, at least so far so good. We made the name. At least you can't mention Ripples, and in terms of events, this and they'll be telling you that who is that? What are you talking about? So for the names we're making, even in Lagos, we've gone to work in Lagos and even discovered that it's Ibadan, we're still better off in terms. The time we went to do something in Lagos and we were serving, and I noticed that one of the committee of friends for the celebrant were counting the plate of food. 1, 2, 3. So I was looking at what the guy was doing. So by the time I noticed the person stopped counting. So I was like, you stop counting? He said, no problem. So later I got to know that in Lagos, if you are serving 500 people and it's exactly 500, you stop serving. But if you keep serving, that's extra, they will have to pay. So, but because she now realized that we have served more than so she stopped counting and all that. So, but for us in Ibadan, we won't do events, cater for an event and say, look at the exact thing that what we would do. We will still put extra. Say in Lagos, you have to add some. They have to pay for those extras that you're serving. So Ibadan has been good to us seriously, and we've at least catered for the last 3 Olubadans, and the last Alaf, and it actually, and because of the environment and all that, and the cost of living also is relatively cheaper compared to going to Lagos. Because by the time you look at getting a shop in Lagos, you can get a shop for like about, within Dugbe Hags is 500,000, 1 million. But in Lagos, by the time you want to get that kind of place in Lagos, we're talking about maybe 10 or 15 million. And that is why when they charge, you keep wondering, but when you look at their cost compared to we that are in Ibadan, it's the difference is there. So far so good. Ibadan is relatively good for us. I don't like. In fact, when I was in the bank, I used to pray that God, before they would transfer me to Lagos, let me leave the bank. Because I can't imagine the life from mainland to VI, and, every day. And some of my colleagues will say they are still at work 11 p.m. In fact, some people would manage to get home 2 a.m. and by 4 a.m. they're already going back again. I said, look, God, before that time will come that they will transfer me to Lagos, let me be sufficient enough to be on my own and know that Lagos is okay just once in a while, not that I have to go through the hustling and the bustling. So, and God answered my prayer.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for sharing all this and being very honest and open with us. We really appreciate it. I'm sure that there's just so much to learn from and ruminate on after this.
So on a final note from me, what's your vision for Ripples in another 10 years?
Okay, like I said, in 10 years I'll be 61. I will be 52. So it's about the knowledge, and that's why I'm pursuing my postgraduate, because I realized that mentoring, it's one of the things, if we're going to imbibe the kind of principles we have that had worked for us in some years back, we need to start that aspect of mentoring the younger generation. We can't leave them, like, you were saying that, look, how would you make hush puppy your distance and all that? There is no cash flow. There is nothing. There is no story you can share about how he rose from the grass to grace. There is nothing so emulating. There's nothing so interesting that you want to hear that that is sustainable. Okay, so for us, it's more of the academy to be able to bring in all this younger generation to say, look, in fact, I've told myself that if any of my kids, I've been telling them now that, look, I'm not saying you shouldn't get into paid employment, but know at the back of your mind that it cannot last. Because if you do this in the next 10, 15 years of your life, either you like it or not, at a point in time you will still leave. So when you leave, how do you, so it's better you are used to that lifestyle and know that, look, there's a way. My brother-in-law of blessed memory was a production manager in WAPCO, and he used to say that thing that Ishe ni Oma Sheje Owo ni Baba Shela. That, look, when you work for somebody, you can only survive with it. But you can only thrive when
you are on your own doing your thing. You won't believe that it was like that for him. When he left WAPCO, he became supplier of cement and all that. He became so stupendously rich. So for me, it's a way to say, look, if you're going to go through the part of life and you want to have your peace of mind, it's for you to go into entrepreneurship. And you know, just yesterday, he sent me a message. He said he needs some of my business book. And when I'm coming back to school, just one or two. I said, do you have any course related to? He's studying accounting, the second one. He said no, that he just wants to be reading it. And I think it's a part to it that, look, once you're able to just learn one or two things, it helps you before you even graduate, for you to know what part of life you want to take. So it's for us to be able to pass on the knowledge we have to the younger generation and be able to encourage them that, look, no matter what. Now, some people that started catering when we were starting in 2000, most of them are no longer active. So it's not a matter of this thing. You know, some of them have this fear. When are we going to reach your level? I remember in those days, my wife would complain, no customer since 2 weeks, and we'll see the vehicle of those people moving up and down. And I said, look, your time will come. Those people have paid their dues. There's a particular caterer. I used to have my branch where I worked then with Intercontinental Bank in Ogunpa. The caterer had a shop next to the branch. Overnight, the whole place got burnt. So now, if you're hearing the name of this person here and there, it doesn't come accidentally. It's everybody will pay their dues. So after all these things, then we can have the testimony.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are so glad we've been able to learn from your experiences. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Until next week, where we'll be joining you again, have a wonderful week. God bless.